Hey, I know that we've talked about this before on my show, but we probably should keep talking about it because it's about saving lives. And that is fentanyl poisoning in our nation and how it is wrecking our children, wrecking our families, destroying communities. Really one of the most tragic things that I think our nation has faced and is having to deal with. And it's not just an epidemic of addiction. It is an actual poisoning of our nation. And what do I mean by that? I mean that we are dealing with now something that we have never dealt with before on an epic proportion, a grand scale. China is moving fentanyl precursor chemicals. Those are the chemicals used to make fentanyl into Mexico. Those chemicals are being obtained by the Mexican drug cartels, and they are using them to make fentanyl tablets. These fentanyl tablets are being disguised as Percocet, Adderall, oxycodone, anything that you can think of. And they are flooding our streets with them. And children are dying. People are dying, and they have been now for years. The DEA is well aware of this. Our U.S. intelligence apparatus is very well aware of this. I've talked to people, directly, and this is part of my career. Great portion of my career was dealing with the intelligence community, dealing with the military. This is not just, and I want to repeat it again, this is not just about addiction, although that is a part of it, part of the problem that we face as a nation. But what I'm telling you right now is that we are being poisoned. Our nation is being poisoned. Our children are being poisoned. And where are our lawmakers? Where are our leaders? I want you to think about that. We have an adversary of our country targeting our nation. And that is a reason why I'm not immune to the horrors of what happens, right, with fentanyl poisoning. My son's best friend from high school, Joe, he was actually, I believe, killed. That's the way I like to say it. He was murdered when he took a Adderall tablet that was a counterfeit tablet. And he died. He did not survive. Joe lost his life because he was a kid. He also had Asperger's on the spectrum. And he's autistic, however you want to say it, autism. He was on the spectrum, but just the sweetest person, just a good soul. A good soul. And one day, it was April 12th, 2019, Joe took an Adderall and he left this world forever. And he's not the only one. He's not the only one. 107,000 plus Americans lost their lives to the opioid epidemic. 40% plus to fentanyl. Fentanyl is considered a weapon of mass destruction in its pure form by the DEA and by our military. And our children are dying. And today I have a very special guest, a mother who lost her son, Ryan, Sandra Bagwell. He was only 19 years old. She lost her son when he took a Percocet. He was murdered. He took a Percocet tablet and did not wake up in the morning. She found her son had passed. And she is not the only parent, and she is here in Texas. I actually recorded this interview with her earlier. So you're going to see me. If you see me on YouTube, I'm in a different outfit. No, I'm not magical. I don't make these magical clothes changes. But I interviewed her earlier. I felt that it was so important that she tell her story because we want to save lives. And I want to make you, parents, aware that your children, your most precious gift, is being targeted by our adversaries, targeted by the cartels. And if you don't take care of them, nobody else will. And that's what Sandra Bagwell wants to teach you. She wants to give you the tools. Her son died a year ago. Can you imagine living with that, dealing with that? But she finds a way to heal herself by helping you and by saving lives. Thank God for families like Sandra Bagwell. Thank God for parents like Sandra Bagwell, and for people like her who are really go beyond anything we can ever imagine to help another human being. And before we get to Sandra, I want to talk to you about Allegiance Gold. Why? Because right now our world is upside down. You see how upside down our world is, right? The banking systems are falling apart. We have banks that are going woke, that are throwing people out, even great businesses like Don Jr.'s, business, and a Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Remember what happened to him? And look at what happened to all the truckers in Canada, the Freedom Truckers. Well, you can't put all your eggs in one basket, folks. You just can't do that. You have to diversify. You have to spread your money across the board, and you have to protect yourself and protect your family. And that is by giving right now. You can get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. It's just that simple. My friends at Allegiance Gold can help you protect your IRA or your 401k with physical gold and silver, and they'll deliver it directly to your door. Imagine that. You don't have to go pick it up anywhere. They will deliver it to your home. Allegiance Gold also has the highest ratings in the industry. Listen to this. 5 stars with TrustLink, AAA rated with the Business Consumer Alliance. And guess what? They even have an A+ from the Better Business Bureau. Right now, you can get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. So don't wait. Call or click today, 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA, SARA, or go to protectwithsara.com. We can't control the Biden administration, but guess what? We can prepare. 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA without the H, SARA, or protectwithsara.com. So I talked a little bit about Joe Smith, a young man who spent so much of his high school time in my house and was my son's best friend. And, he suffered as well from autism. He was definitely on the spectrum. And it was always funny for my husband and I, because when Joe would come in the house and when we first started to get to know him, he was very, very quiet. So I could be like in the kitchen. So my husband's blind, and then I'd be in the kitchen and I'd turn around and there would be Joe standing there like, just smiling at us. And I would be like, Joe, you got to say something next time. Poor Joe, he had been through so much, and life was tough on him. And he was such a good-souled person, such a good heart. And to see him lose his life the way that he did was so tragic. He didn't even have a chance to live it. And it tore my son Alex apart. It was a very, very difficult time in our family. Almost everyone knows somebody in America who has been affected by the opioid or drug crisis or fentanyl crisis now that we're seeing. And now it's becoming even more prolific as we watch like fentanyl spread from our inner streets, and we see xylazine being used. And of course, those are people that are drug users, and we see the horrors of that. But we're also seeing the horrors of poisoning. Our children literally being poisoned, like Joe, who lost his life, taking a Percocet. This is something that I think is hard for a lot of American families to believe. It's very difficult for us to come to terms with the fact that our streets are being flooded with poison. but it's just that important. And if anything, this is why I have Sandra Bagwell on the show today. She is I have already talked about her, but she's extraordinary. She is fighting for other people's children to live. She wants you to understand her story so that your children have a fighting chance and that your family members have a fighting chance. And not only that, but Sandra, you are also taking your fight to Capitol Hill, also here in Texas, taking it straight over to our legislators. You're going to be in Austin this week. Thank you so much for being on the Sarah Carter Show. I know every mom that's listening to this and dad can only imagine the pain that you are going through if they have not suffered through it themselves. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Oh, I know. I'm actually really grateful to have you on the show. It was Lieutenant Chris Olivares who first told me about you. He reached out to me, and he's been on the show before. And he was saying, look, Sarah, we're seeing a fentanyl crisis here in Texas, and you lost your gorgeous son, Ryan, last year. You were telling me before we got on that tomorrow is going to be the 1-year anniversary of, and it just makes me want, just even saying that just makes me tear up. I want you to talk a little bit about Ryan. I want people to know who Ryan was.
Ryan was just full of energy. I mean, from the day he was born, it was like that boy was nonstop. And he just enjoyed love making friends. I mean, that was so natural to him. You know, we could be on vacation on an island somewhere, and my daughter and him are playing in the sand, and my daughter's over there by herself, and my son's over there, Ryan's over there, you know, talking to other kids and just making friends. He just had that charisma. I don't know. And even as he got older, he made friends with adults, with older gentlemen. Of course, his passion was fishing. I had mentioned that was his like ultimate passion, was fishing. And he was really good at it. And
what was his favorite? Was it going deep sea fishing or just in the lakes?
It depended. I mean, sometimes he would do wade fishing, and he would do that, and then or not on the boat with friends or with his dad. But that was his passion. Like if he could make money off of, fishing, that would have been his like career. But he knew he's like, well, I can't make money, from being a fishing guide or whatever it is. But us being so close to the island over here in South Padre, I mean, that boy would not wake up to go to school, but he would wake up at 4:30 in the morning and meet up with his friends and go fishing, because that's just what he loved. It was like this awesome thing to just see him, getting his fishing rods ready the night before. And I miss all of that. He was just a great kid, not only a good son, but he was a really, really good friend. I have a lot of friends that have told me that he was like a brother to them. Always gave them good advice and always put them first. Always. So he was a really good listener and gave good advice.
It's so heartbreaking. And this is why I want to know him, because I believe that it's important that we honor the people that have passed away. He's not just a number. He was an important part of your family, of your community, of his friends' lives. He gave back to the world, and that was taken from you. I mean, it was ripped, his life was ripped from him and from you and from everybody else because, and I will go into detail into this, because he took a pill that happened to be counterfeit and it contained enough fentanyl to kill him. What goes through your mind? I mean, when you think about that day, you think about what happened, and I mean, there must be a part of you that just can't even believe that it happened.
Yeah. It's just, it's like a living, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a living nightmare every single day. He bought a bottle of Percocet in Mexico. Him and a friend crossed over, since we live right here, by the border, and brought that bottle home. Of course, he didn't tell us that he bought Percocet or pills or anything. We didn't know he was dabbling or experimenting with pills. We knew he smoked marijuana, that we did know, but the pills we didn't. So it's just really sad to know that, you know, kids make mistakes. We all make mistakes. You know, we did stupid things when we were younger. You know, he wanted, for whatever reason, he wanted to take a pill. For whatever, I don't know, self-medicate. I have no idea. But
let's talk about this, because you would never think that smoking marijuana would lead to someone's death, right? You would never think that taking a Percocet would lead to someone's death. And he also got the tablets, the Percocet tablets, at a pharmacy in Mexico.
Yes, correct.
So you wouldn't think that at a pharmacy, even if it's in Mexico, because I've vacationed in Mexico and I've had to get medication at a pharmacy in Mexico when I've been sick, I would have never thought going to the pharmacy could end up in my death.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And he's not the only one. There's so many, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't, I guess, are not talking about it. But
why do you think that is, as a mom? Because I'm talking now to folks all the time. Derek Maltz sent me a collage of photographs yesterday of just teenagers.
Yes.
Yeah, just teenagers that he has put together. And it's just thousands of children that have lost their lives, and our children are being poisoned, and it's not being talked about the way it should be. I mean, we talked about September 11th, and there was a good reason, right? Planes flew into the World Trade Center. Everybody saw it live on television. 2001, we had over 107,000 overdose deaths last year, 60% of which were fentanyl related.
Right.
Is what they believe. And you and I both talked about this. I don't believe that's all the correct numbers anyways.
Right. They're not tracking them correctly. But I mean, the statistics show, or that say that every 5 minutes, someone in the United States dies of fentanyl poisoning. Every 5 minutes. So that tallies up to, you know, close to 300 every day. That's the equivalent of passengers on an airplane and the airplane crashing, and yet nobody's talking about it. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, how can this not be like a COVID-like response? Like, the public needs to know that this is happening each and every day.
I think people still believe, or they want to believe, that this is an addict issue, right? Like, I've talked to parents about this before. Like, it's just so easy. If you think of it as just being an addict issue, then okay, well, I don't have any problems. Well, a lot of parents, I remember, you know, talking to parents in the past, I've done documentaries on this, where they thought, oh, we don't have any problems. And then later they find out that their children, middle class, upper middle class, white communities, so to speak, quote unquote, you know, never thought that it would happen to them, and it happened to them.
Exactly.
Middle class America, you know, and
it doesn't discriminate. This drug does not discriminate.
Talk about that when you talk to other family members. What do you guys say to you? Is that the message you're trying to deliver to wake people up?
Yes.
Is like
this happened to us, and if it can happen to us, then it can happen to you. And sometimes I think people, I'm just saying in general, people out there might say, well, like you said, oh, well, he shouldn't have been doing drugs, or judging, right? Because it hasn't happened to them. And not until it happens to them or someone close to them will they understand what we are trying to do or what we're going through. Nobody gets it.
That's absolutely true. But I fear that if we don't talk about it and make it more public and let people know, for example, the big meeting, I guess the summit is a one pill kill summit. And that summit that's vitally important, even just saying one pill kills, because it's like playing Russian roulette. I mean, you're out there, kids are out there, and how easy was it? I mean, just as a mother, you know, when you look back, do you think like, is there anything that you would advise other parents to say or something like that would get them to talk to their children differently about what you wish you would have known?
Well, I mean, parents need to be more vigilant, of course, of their child's cell phone, because that's how the transactions are being done, through their cell phones, even at well, I'm not saying elementary, like junior high, high school. I mean, they're selling this stuff. I mean, I'm not just saying here, it's being done everywhere, middle schools and high schools across the nation, you know, because it's so easy to just get on your cell phone. Whoever is selling it will just say, I have all of this. I'll meet you in the bathroom, or I'll meet you wherever. And of course, schools are not talking about it. Some schools are, but some are keeping it quiet, you know, but they need to understand, parents need to understand that this is real. It's happening. It's happening at the schools. Of course, not just schools, but, you know, it's so accessible to these kids. They can just buy it from their cell phones. It's not like going to a street shady corner and buying pills. It's not like that anymore. It's so easy. So easy. But yeah, parents need to know. And a lot of the times I think kids don't listen to their parents. You know, they listen to a certain degree, but not until it hits home and they see it happening to someone in their community, then it really is more impactful.
I'll be right back with Sandra Bagwell in just 1 minute. But first, I want to talk to you about fast growing trees. I always tell everybody how great it is to be in the outdoors, how great it is to get out there and plant trees and breathe fresh air and spend time with your family away from the television, away from your cell phone, just being one with nature. And you can do this so easy with fast growing trees. Fast growing trees allows you to have like a nursery expert right at your fingertips, You get plant experts that can talk to you about thousands of different of plants that you can grow in your particular region of the country. You don't have to get out there. You don't have to get a book. You can just sit there online talking to an expert and getting the plants that'll prosper and grow in your area of the nation. Imagine that. So easy, right? So I want you to join the 1.5 million happy fast growing tree customers. Go to fastgrowingtrees.com/Carter now to get 15% off your entire order. Get 15%. Can you believe that? Off the fastgrowingtrees.com/Carter. fastgrowingtrees.com/Carter. Sandra, you said when it happens here, you're seeing it a lot more in Texas. Before, you know, we would say, oh, it's here, but then it moves to the rest of the country. You know, the cartels are moving their product all across the country, which is why they're battling over the highway systems, you know, and the border and of course those border towns become the battlegrounds, you know, for the cartel wars to just reach our highway systems to get these narcotics and contraband all across the United States. But we're starting to see it in Texas as well, like in the border communities. And I think your son's case, along with a few others, were the first time that people realized, whoa, wait a minute. The pharmacies in Mexico are now selling this on the border. And I don't think people actually believed it at first.
No, they didn't.
Right? Right?
No.
It was kind of like, and NPR went down there. I think they were planning on doing a story saying, well, we didn't find any fentanyl. And all of a sudden they found that over 40% or something of the pills that they purchased contained illicit fentanyl.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
And you've actually met family members here in Texas, right? That have also been through what you've been through.
Yes.
Was that a surprise? Moms. Was that a surprise for you when you just...
The first mom that I met, because I was here fighting and I was the only one here in the Valley. The closest one was in Corpus. I met a mom named Faye. And so I was like, okay, well, that's close, you know. But once that video by Texas Pictures was out on social media, then others started sharing, like I said, and then it reached a mom from Donna, Texas here, which is close by, local, and she reached out to me on Facebook, and then told me that her son also died of fentanyl poisoning the day before my son died. So Ryan died on April the 4th. Her son died on April the 3rd. 16 years old.
It's just incredible. And she was suffering probably alone.
She was suffering alone too. So then again, like we've done some interviews and stuff down here in the Valley. And like we're choosing to talk about it. I know there's a lot more, but it's the stigma.
Oh, it is. Oh, it is. It's the stigma. It's like people keep thinking of this as an abuser, a drug abuser.
Yeah, like, aren't you embarrassed that your son did drugs? Well, you know, it's reality. It's reality, absolutely. But I'm not embarrassed about it because in reality, it wasn't a drug. It was poison. So,
yeah, that's exactly what it was. And this is the issue. You're now going all the way to Governor Abbott, to all of the legislators here in Texas. I know that there are parents all across America right now fighting back on this and saying, wait a minute, we have to find new ways of prosecuting. If I'm pushing fentanyl pills all across America and they are counterfeit pills that say Percocet, if you're selling them in a pharmacy in Mexico, if you're at all dealing in this, I would assume that I would be responsible for that, right? That would be murder in my,
yeah, it is murder.
It's murder. So how do parents fight back in an effort to ensure that legislation is passed that people who sell these fentanyl pills, you know, on our streets, these counterfeit pills, or even, you know, I mean, if we have to deal with our international partners, that they are treated as what they are, murderers.
Yes.
Murderers. Because there are people that take a Percocet, you know, how is your son even going to know, right? How did he even know?
Right. And it looks exactly the same. I mean, right. DEA has said that you can't tell the difference. You just can't tell the difference.
So when you go to Texas, here in Austin this week, what are you hoping to accomplish? What are you looking to accomplish in this meeting with the governor? I know you're going to be briefing him. Others are going to be speaking to him. What is it that you want to accomplish?
I'm representing a coalition that Dr. Katrina Gary Forte and I kind of started, but I mean, it was her idea. It's her baby. So she's the president of the coalition and I'm the vice president. So I'm representing the coalition and our purpose is to spread, to end, not end, but hopefully stop, well, I guess our mission would be to end fentanyl, right? Poisoning and opioid overdoses here in Texas. And so I want them to know that, or the governor to know, or whoever's listening, that, my son was who my son was, and that it can happen to anyone, and they need to do something about it. I know that's the whole purpose of this summit, is to come up with a plan for how they're going to approach it. Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you this, you're not alone. There are families all across this country that are suffering the way you are. And I know that every day has to be a struggle for you and your family. It hasn't even been a year yet. And that's got to be very tough on you. And I commend you for your strength, that you're still fighting for your son and for his memory. That can't be easy.
Thank you.
Again, I want to thank Sandra Bagwell for coming on the show with me today. It was really an honor to be able to interview her. I know how difficult it was for her to do this. I know how hard it is for any parent out there to imagine that their child could disappear from them in an instant, that they just won't even have that opportunity to say, I love you. Thank you for making my life so beautiful. Thank you for making me feel so whole. Thank you for being a part of my life. That's got to be one of the toughest things as a parent, to have your child ripped from you. Our children are being murdered, people. Our children are losing their lives, and we have to fight for them. We have to defend them. We have to let them know that we love them. And today, after you listen to this podcast, for those of you with children, after you turn off all of your tech, spend some time with your kids. Find out what's going on at their school. Find out if there are kids at the school that are selling pills, or if there's something happening in your neighborhood that you should know about. Let's take a little break away from ourselves and being immersed inside all of our technology. And let's check our kids' cell phones, like Sandra Bagwell said, and let's spend some time with them, and let's really, really listen to them. Really listen to them. And if you feel something in your gut, if you feel something is wrong, if you feel like your child isn't telling you the truth, then your gut is probably right. Take a moment to find out what that is. You could be saving your child's life. Thank you so much for being with me today on the show. Thank you so much for joining me. Follow me on Truth at Sara Carter Official, on Twitter at Sara Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. God bless you. God bless our great nation. God bless all of our children, and say a prayer for them. And God bless the great state of Texas.